here to summarize the work that we have done in the last months in relation to this initiative of the African credit transfer system. From the European, as Professor Losula mentioned, this credit system was proposed in the framework of another project, the Tuning Initiative. But of course, when the project finished, the proposal stayed on paper. So fortunately, from the European Commission, they asked to revitalize this discussion in the framework of HAQAA. And only to remind, very briefly, to some of you who are not familiar with what this ECTS means, it's a proposal for a credit in Africa. It has two milestones, two pillars that are the definition of a credit that was agreed among a big number of countries, institutions, authorities, and to consider the credit as a measure of a workload. And this is the second key element in this proposal, that this credit will be based on workload and an estimation of the total amount of work that a student requires to complete all the tasks in a concrete program. So these two elements are part of the agreement, of the main agreement. The second aspect, beside these two concepts, is that one academic year in Africa, it will represent 60 units of this African credit system. And the third element in the proposal is the number of a range of hours would represent each of the academic years in Africa. And these yellow or orange circles with these figures, 1,350, 1,850 hours in total for the student workload represent one academic year in the whole continent. So these three elements are the base of this proposal, elaborated again in the framework of another project, but which will not be adopted in general in the African context. So what we have done during the 2022, first of all, and in the framework of HAQAA, we compose a task force to try to revitalize revitalize this discussion in the African context and in the framework of HAQAA. So we create this unit, this force, composed by experts from the Association of African Universities. Here, Professor Losula and Professor Teferra participate actively in the Tuning Initiative. So from now the role in the African Association of Universities, the Association of African Universities, now they integrate this group of experts, also from the DAD. Representative from the DAD. Here are my colleagues, Sarah and Stefan, who contribute to this discussion, and also the team group from Obreal, plus two experts from different regions, from the Lusophone, my colleague Ana Maria Nampule, and from the Francophone, another colleague that is not today here in this event, but participate actively in the elaboration of credits from Côte d'Ivoire, Hortense Dale. So all these people together, we try to propose something to revitalize this initiative, this sleeping initiative since 2018. So we propose two concrete objectives, two specific objectives during 2022, to promote a regional dialogue in order of the importance, the relevance of the ACTS in the African context, and to try to define an initial roadmap for the future. So after the promotion as a product of this dialogue that they promote in different scenarios, we collect some information in order to define future steps, a roadmap for the future. In terms of this first subject-specific objective, in this specific objective, the promotion of a dialogue in different countries, in different regions, we developed 4 ACTS workshops. One of the workshops was recently developed here in Accra last Tuesday, but we developed similar workshops in Ethiopia, in Mozambique, in Cote d'Ivoire. And beside this very focused strategy to promote the dialogue, we also participate in several meetings, events, forums. Here I collect some of the last one that are related to the participation in Tanzania and in Mozambique in different quality assurance continental meeting or regional meetings. So in terms of this promotion of the dialogue, we try to achieve different levels of participation. The first one was the regional level, because in the framework of the HAQAA general meeting, we introduced the credit. We explain how these figures that I show in the first slide were achieved during the tuning initiative. So we involve the different partners in HAQAA and others reached by the Association of African Universities and also BREAL to this discussion. But of course, then we also focus on the national level. And in these particular workshops in Ethiopia, in Ghana, Mozambique, and Cote d'Ivoire, we try to involve ministries of higher education, the National Accreditation Agency, Association of Universities, but also as the third level of involvement in this process of promotion of regional, national, and institutional dialogue, we also involve representatives from universities, from the main universities in the different countries where these workshops were developed. And the format that we use, it's a format of one session more informative, trying to introduce and to explain what is the ACTS, what is the context of this ACTS in Africa, and which are the key elements. And after this short introduction, the workshop format was critical for us, because here the participant in different groups, and probably some of you also be part of this discussion last Tuesday, tried to answer different key questions in relation of the connection of this proposal with an existing one at the national level. If there are not a credit system at the national level, how this proposal can fit, can be adopted, can be adapted at the end, which are the main benefits of this ACTS, as Professor Elosula mentioned, and which are the main barriers. And so with all this information, and this is the second specific objective, this elaboration of the roadmap, with all the data that we collected from the discussions in the different workshops, we start preparing a roadmap for the future. And in general, so there are two main aspects that I would like to stress. The first is the good reception of the proposal in all these scenarios, in all, even in the general meetings or in the conference or the forums where we introduce some of us the ACTS. It was very, very well welcome. And the second aspect is the importance to move forward in the implementation of a credit like ACTS. So the acceptance and the feasibility in the future in some of the countries involved in this discussion to be included. So at the end, when we collect the perception of the participant in the workshops about the benefits, the relevance, the importance of a credit. These are a very, very short summary of the main words, the main ideas that emerge in this discussion. The importance for flexibility, the importance for comparability, for compatibility, for mobility, and also for the implementation of a competence-based curriculum. That is one of our concerns in general. So all these elements appear very clear in the discussion. But of course, and this is also a very good input that we are now in the process of finalize, because we are collecting the last input from HAQAA, the barriers that the participant identified in the different contexts. And here there are many similarities in terms of which are the barriers that can be identified in different contexts. The first one, and this is part of what we are going to propose in the future, the lack of awareness of the ACTS, but not also this proposal, the lack of awareness of the importance to introduce a credit system in the curriculum design, and how it must be related to other institutional process, the quality assurance review, institutional evaluation, the government's strategy, the transparency of the information that we produce from the universities. So it is clear that when we introduce this discussion in the different academic forum, there is a lack of awareness of the credit, and in particular, the African credit transfer system. And as a second aspect to be covered in the future is the lack of awareness of its added value as part of the Pan-African quality assurance and accreditation framework. And this is more related to HAQAA and the process follow in the last years. So how this it's entirely connected with the discussion that you developed in the last years in the framework of HAQAA. And of course, at the level of the institutions, because as I mentioned, the actors that participate in the workshop represent ministries of education, but also universities, the difficulty in changing some institutional cultures, institutional behaviors at the university level, and how to move and to shift from a teacher-centered approach to a student-centered approach. This appears very clear in the discussions, that one of the aspects to be focused in the future. So how we train, how we introduce the academic community, the basis of the academic community, the teachers who designs the courses, the programs, but also the students in this discussion. Of course, the idea of the different regulatory mechanisms at the national level, some contradictions, some aspects that must be solved in some of the cases that are represented in this studio, in the 4 workshops. The lack of continental support, but also the non-alignment, and it was mentioned in the morning, with other regional initiatives. So how this ACTS, how this discussion about the credit in Africa can also be, it is connected to other big frameworks that are now under development in Africa. So, and to finalize, with all this input, we are preparing, we promise that in the coming weeks, we will share with you this roadmap that is in process. But for the future, and with these lessons learned from the input, the information that we collected, the dialogue that they promote at the different levels, we consider that there is two main objectives for the future. The first one is to try to increase the participation, to include more actors in this dialogue, and at different levels, at high level, but also on the basis of the university level. So we must include more actors, more participants in this discussion. And there is a second main objective, probably as a lesson learned from from this revitalization strategy during 2022, that is that we must go beyond a full adoption and implementation of this credit. So we have to pilot this credit in some concrete cases. So we have to include more people in the discussion to enhance and to enrich our discussion, and to that more people feel involved and aware of the importance of the credit, but also to move forward to a real implementation. And to increase this participation, of course, here the idea is to try to discuss at national level, where the regulation must be changed, must be adopted, and we must involve in this dialogue, in this policy dialogue, probably national authorities from the higher education perspective, at the ministries, but also from the Association of Rectors, the Association of Chancellors at the different universities, at the different countries, but also academics who are the responsible for the implementation, for the planning, for the design of a program with credit allocated, but also the student who in this scenario will, in the future, will monitor this implementation. So here we must include the three key big actors in our discussion at national level. So for this, and as for the first arrow that I show that are part of these findings, these lessons learned from the workshop, probably we must promote national policy dialogues with these key actors, to pose directly in some policy tables of dialogue some questions in terms of if they have a credit, how this ACTS fits or can be adapted to the national regulation, and if they don't have any credit, how this credit can be included in the national policy. But of course, at this level of increased dialogue and participation, we need also staff development. We need staff development at the level of the different key actors. And probably, and in terms of our discussions, we consider that in the future, we must cover at least 35 countries in the regions to have a more complete picture of this awareness, of this commitment with the discussion of the credit. So to initiate the dialogue. So this implies this probably 35 countries implies some kind of work directly with authorities and some kind of format of staff development. But we have the second arrow, that is to go beyond, to pilot. And here it's part of the philosophy behind the credit. So how we move from a teacher-centered approach, that is the first planning scenario, where a concrete semester is described in terms of the contact hours, and how we can move to the second scenario, where we include in our planning the total student workload. But of course, how we do that? So how we include something that are now hidden, that is not so visible in the daily routine of our academics, to try to include it, to try to estimate it, and to try to put it in their design in the particular courses. So for this, we consider that we need a full implementation with an institutional commitment of some concrete countries, with a number of universities to develop in depth this implementation, of course, with a more complete and precise staff development of the staff who are involved in the design of some programs in different universities in some countries. Here in the circle is a potential 10 countries involved, fully involved as a result of our findings in the discussions. That is a possibility. So we need this institutional commitment from from the ministry, from the higher education responsibles, but also from a number of universities, from number of chancellors, vice chancellors, who will pilot and implement this type of ACTS in some concrete degree programs, and we can support, because it's this lack of capacity of tools of how to deal with the estimation of the workload, how to plan with from the student center approach. So this needs staff development strategies. So we probably consider important this complete and in-depth staff development strategy with some universities in some concrete countries. And after that, we can have programs completely designed with credit allocation and from the student center approach. And with the participation of the students in these particular programs as monitors to try to verify if this amount that is planned is effectively the time that they require to fulfill all the tasks that the teachers propose. And as a final aspect, because at the end this can be some kind of ambassador, some kind of centers of excellence in terms of the piloting of this experience of the ACTS. They must develop, and part of the commitment is to develop strategies to extend to other institutions and to other programs in these countries that we can pilot these findings and these lessons learned in all this full implementation process. So this is something that we collect from the workshop, is something that we probably be part of our future roadmap, but there are some topics that emerge in terms of the staff development. I remember Professor Losula that we collect in our previous workshop in Addis, 5 topics that must be covered in a very specific training, and also you introduced some of them in your presentation last Tuesday. So this is part of what we identify. The future, it's coming. So thank you very much.
We off your screen. Can you get up and screen? Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Pablo. I want to make it clear that this project has not started. The African Credit Transfer System project has not started. But I want us to thank HAQAA2 projects in that within the past 4 or 5 months, they have been able to help us to come together as a small group, so that we ask ourselves what has been done in the past through the training project, which is exactly what Dr. Pablo had done, and to ask ourselves, where are we going? I want to tell you that we are very lucky today in that we want to hear from you, the stakeholders, the content of this project that we're about to start. So that's the purpose of this conversation. So please, what we are doing today is we want to develop the proposal together. And I want to assure you that we are going to be open to whatever views you will be expressing today. Sorry, it will be as if I'm walking to the answer, because I'm aware of the call for HAQAA2. I'm also aware of what is expected of us, the expected deliverables for HAQAA2. But that proposal, to respond to it, we are just about to do it. So what I want to do now is to behave as if we want to write the proposal together. And I will be sharing with you what is in that content. In that content, we need to identify the objective of this initiative. The HAQAA initiative on the whole seeks to improve the quality and harmonization of African higher education and support students' employability and mobility across the continent, operating at 3 levels: higher education institutions, quality assurance agencies, and at cross-regional and continental level. To be able to achieve these objectives, we believe that we need to put in place the African credit transfer system. The specific objective of this proposal that all of us will be responding to is to develop a quality culture and quality enhancement in higher education institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, that call had asked us to deliver 3 or to connect ourselves to 5 major activities. Number 1, in writing this proposal, they said we should organize a broad consultation of relevant national and regional authorities and higher education institutions in order to complete the definition of credit transfer system. I will tell you, this is the major assignment that we have. And the question is, how can we do it? From this first assignment, you will find out that they've said we should have a broad consultation. And all of us together, we decide today who should be the stakeholders or the participants of that broad consultation. But from what they have said, we should identify relevant national and regional authorities, some strategic higher education institutions that we shall gather together to define what is credit transfer system in Africa. After we have done that broad consultation, the call says that we should produce a guide so that anybody anywhere in Africa can use that guide. We should also produce training materials. In addition, when we've done that, we should organize some pilot programs to sample what we have done. And lastly, we said we should not end this project without getting what they call ACCS ambassadors in Africa. People who will be speaking for credit in Africa. So I hope Dr. Pablo agrees with me. This is what is in that call. It's now left to you and I to decide what are we going to do. And I want to take you along with me. They said, number 1, organize a broad consultation of relevant national and regional authorities and higher education institutions in order to complete the definition of the credit transfer system. I will tell you, we have got thus far now through the support of Obre Global in the HAQAA2 initiative. And that's why we've already decided that AAU will lead this initiative. But since Obre Global have been the one discussing with the European Union before now, they will co-lead this initiative with AAU on the chair. And what we are going to do are the following. What we are proposing to do, we are going to organize meetings with national regulatory agencies. And we don't want to leave any country out of this. And we want to cover all the 5 regional groups and all the language groups in Africa, major language groups in Africa. And when we meet with them, what are the things that we shall be talking? This project has asked us to ensure that the students that we are producing in Africa are employable. So what should be the conversation that we shall be having with them? And we are proposing to you that the conversation we'll be having at those meetings are the following. Skills and competencies expected across different disciplines in African universities. We shall also be talking about, just as he said, student-centered learning. We shall also talk to people about learning outcomes. just like what has just been done, how can we ensure that our lecturers develop learning outcomes that should be met in every course they teach? After that, we shall gather together and develop how to calculate student workload. Then we will now together define what is the African credit system that we want. What is credit in Africa? Ladies and gentlemen, when we have done that, we hope that our participants will be able to develop new programs in Africa using what they have learned about credit. So this is the proposal. If you know of some other things that you want us to do with our stakeholders, please, we will be open to hear from you. But the work is not ended. We are proposing, I've not discussed this with Pablo, but this from my own African experience, that beyond meeting with stakeholders, we should have some special training programs with directors of academic planning in Africa. And what we want to discuss with the director of academic planning is the academic planning process and responsibilities. We also will be discussing with the directors of academic planning on curriculum design in African universities. And beyond that, we are proposing that we will extend this to deans of graduate schools or directors of postgraduate programs. And we'll be discussing the following: quality assurance of graduate programs and credit as applicable to graduate studies. Following that, we will now settle down. The guide or the book that they said we should write, we shall designate some people in Africa to help us to write a book on the African credit transfer system, including the user's guide. This book, we hope, will be used to promote whatever we agree together in our various universities. And I hope that by the time we finish all this, we have just about how many years to go? 4 years, 4 or 5 years. We will have been able to have African credit transfer system ambassadors. So please, we hope that we get these ambassadors from our students, professors, directors of academic planning, and heads of department. So ladies and gentlemen, I've just shared with you my own personal thoughts. What do you think we should do to address this project excellently well to fulfill the objectives of developing an African credit transfer scheme? So we are open. I can see Professor Kopukola all hands up. Then I come here and there too. Thank you.
If our participants, some of our participants, not Professor was
one of the foremost vice chancellors that we have in the Nigerian university system. He was vice chancellor of one of the universities, and he did excellently well there. But unfortunately, sir, you came into office after and left office as executive secretary, National University System. I was the executive secretary, National University Committee, 21 years ago. And when I was in office, I established the best vice chancellor award. And if I were in office when you were in office, you would have been the best vice chancellor of Nigeria.
Thank you, sir.
I can see this, but you see what you have said, and you are asking, for me, you have been as comprehensive and as broad scopes and as in-depth as I can imagine. What I was going to say that, let us start. Now, let's start all the steps that you are listed. Whether they are, I'm sure that the Nigerians, but for me, I'm 100% in agreement with the flow of these events. And I'm also glad and delighted that in the next appearance of HAQAA, that's HAQAA2, AAU will play a major role, a chairing role, and Africans will take dominion, take the wheel of be the architect of our budget, be in front. AU is the voice of Africa, and it's only you can't just be the voice and don't really know the more. The challenge with the credit system will be, or rather, the stumbling blocks will be broken when we are taking through the entire process. Take Nigeria, for instance. We have defined what the credit system is like. We just concluded after 4 years of operation, we just concluded in the development of a brand new re-engineered curriculum. And as I mentioned earlier, we launched it a few days ago, and everything is online. In there, we have defined what the credit system is, and we also
There is no harmonization, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, that can work without this ACTS. None. You are talking about mobility. You are talking about somebody, a student on a graduate or postgraduate, wanting to transfer from Ethiopia, where this academic juggernaut is, Addis Ababa University, to University of Lagos. If we don't have some commonality, the same currency of credit system, then it's not going to happen. So I want to see this as a major pillar in the harmonization agenda of AAU, of AU or of Africa. So I want to 100% support the entire process. And the other one that you just brought in, the academic planners, all the other people that are exceedingly important. So thank you, sir. I don't have anything to add other than to say, we should begin yesterday. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir. And to note that the representative of the European Union is here listening to us, and she's hearing what you are saying. Yeah? Yeah. Is the mic working? No. Can we change that?
Right. First of all, I would like to congratulate the task force. This is something that some of us have been waiting for, and it's wonderful that you've reached here, SG. It is wonderful, and it is, without this harmonization is very difficult. And I would agree with Professor Okebukola that we should accept this process. I have only a few questions to get clarity. First of all, I assume this is supposed to be equivalent to the ECTS, the European credit system. The issue then is that there are some countries in Africa that have already developed credit systems where, when I studied the equivalence, the notional study hours approach used in some countries in Southern Africa, 2 credits are equal to the 1 ECTS. So there is transferability between the one system and the other. And the question I am asking is it intended that every country in Africa, including those that have developed credit systems, should abandon the system that they've developed and make use of the ACTS? That is the question that I'm asking. so that we know where we are going.
Address that. To note that many countries in Africa have been able to develop their own credit system, but our understanding of credit varies from one country to another. Our understanding of the load that a graduate will need to acquire before you can graduate also vary from one country to another. The situation in African countries is that for a program like a pharmacy program, for some countries, you need about 195 units. For some other countries, they say you need about 250 units of credit. And if you are coming from a country with 195 units, they will tell you that you cannot pass practice in their country. And what we are doing now is related to the Convention 2014, recognition and appreciation of the contents of diplomas, degrees, and certificates. So our understanding is that you should be able to understand the transferability of credits across different countries in Africa. If we are able to define a particular standard that others can relate to it, I think we will have done a good job. Probably Pablo. But to mention, please, before Pablo, that we are not the only one in this. We've got to this discussion as a team. I have over there Professor Damtu Tefera. I also have Anna, who are part of this conversation that we've got to so far. So there is a team in-house with who we are working. But please, I can see more hands up. I saw, yes, somebody there. I will still go around. Yes, please.
Thanks, Chair. This really is a very important initiative. But I suggest that you look back at HAQAA2. During the HAQAA2 project, all the participants from the SADC region got together and we did a research project on cats. And it was a really in-depth study because we interviewed people from every single country in SADC. There were many, many complexities that we discovered. We even reported the findings. Thank you. One of the issues now, as you're talking, Pablo, I'm not sure. In the SADC region, 1 credit is equal to 10 notional hours, which means that the load for an academic year is 1,200 hours, where the minimum now is going to be less than what you proposed on your first slide, which then excludes all of the universities in the SADC region. So I think let's not lose the work that has been done already, and we can share some of those findings with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do also concur with the previous speakers. It's a very good initiative, and I think we still have more priorities in education. But thanks for sharing with us the tips on what is in HAQAA2. I think if we have also an opportunity to request further, I think we need to find a way we focus more on the previous also discussion about a PDU in terms of the data correction and others, but that doesn't stop the initiative to go forward. So what I could suggest in this is to benchmark what is being done, not only in the countries, but also in the region and globally, to see how we can, yes, harmonize, but not unifying, so that the transfer can happen. Because one of the good experience we have encountered recently in implementing one of the program of African Centers of Excellence is when we are admitting students in a country other than their own. And taking a student from Ethiopia, admit him to do petroleum in Mozambique, we didn't find it very hard in terms of the credits. Actually, what we find very feasible is the recognition of the qualification someone is entering with. But also, I think one of the entry point is to have the key information in terms of the qualification framework, where it doesn't exist. Also harmonize it on the regional level, and then see how we can be able to transfer the credits. But all in all, there's also need to have some more focus on harmonizing the data and support some other needs of the continent. Thank you.
In this way, yes, sir.
OK, merci. Parmi les activités que le président a soulevées, j'ai remarqué la création d'ambassadeurs de transfert de crédit. Si je me rappelle bien, pendant l'initiative HAQAA2, il y avait eu la création d'ambassadeurs d'assurance qualité. Et je me dis que mais le transfert des crédits fait partie de l'assurance qualité. Moi, je me dis que pour qu'il n'y ait pas de superposition ou de création d'autres groupes, pour qu'il y ait la continuation des activités d'harmonisation, que ces ambassadeurs d'assurance qualité restent les mêmes et qu'ils soient impliqués effectivement dans l'élaboration de ce guide de transfert de crédit. Je vous remercie.
Well noted. I'm going this way. I'll come over there later. Let's do, yes.
Thank you very much for the outline, which is so clear. I just want to quickly make an addition that because we are talking about the learner-centered approaches and so on, the trainings which were suggested, can they also include the practitioners, the lecturers themselves, so that they can be trained on the learner-centered approach in order to be able to now design new curricula and even review old curricula and understand the credit system? Because right now, it's when you see the issues of credits and so on, there are few people in the institutions who are involved. The rest do not know what is happening, or they just teach, submit marks. Those who do the degree calculations and so on, there are only a few in the institution. So that kind of training can help a lot. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you so much for the presentation and the proposal. Very, I think it's very summarized and very clear. But what I wanted to comment was, if I get the Secretary General well, that this project is starting now. I thought maybe as a suggestion to look at what has been done in the past. For example, during the Tuning Africa, a lot of work on this has been done. So you might need to use that background and what Moni from South Africa had been saying, the research which has been done under HAQAA2 on the SADC region, to build so that you don't discard, you don't throw away work that has already been done, so that it can be a building block to your new project. That is what my suggestion.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I think that there are some issues that can propel collective understanding of the acts and then ensuring that it's implemented easily. And in my opinion, what should be done is to engage, like you are doing now, the key stakeholders in Africa's higher education, vice chancellors, and that the level of academic board or council. Why do I say this? I have followed this the conversation since it was at the tuning level. I was privileged to be part of the advisory group. Now, I did a doctorate at the University of Burundi, but my credits were transferred from the coursework at Lagos State University. So I have lived the African continental African credit transfer systems in my study at the University of Burundi. And it was possible because both heads of the institutions, that is Lagos State University, the doctoral school, was Professor Okebukola. And then at the University of Burundi, it was Professor Juma Shabani. Both of them have in-depth understanding of the credit transfer systems. So it was easy to transfer my credits from Lagos State University to the University of Burundi. It was smooth. And this is because the stakeholders involved understand the issues of the credit. So I think that when many of or all, if the engagement is on vice chancellors levels or the level of the decision makers in the university and they understand it, then there wouldn't be issues. Like Dr. Makuku said, a lot of people in the higher education systems do not understand the credit systems. They don't understand the credit transfers. So if they do not understand it, it's going to be difficult for them to implement. So there is need for collective engagement of these stakeholders. That's what I think.
Because of our time, I will just call on two people who have been part of this to summarize. And Anna, I know you are not expecting me to call you. I will call you to say something to this. Then I call on Professor Damtu to also say something to this. So over to you, Anna and Professor Damtu. Then we'll round up this session.
Thank you, Professor Olushula. Most of the interventions were contributions recommending us to look what have been done in Africa. Really, a study was made during the Tuning Africa, but as we did this study a long time ago, we need to actualize our data, and it is in there when we propose when we talk about participation. Participation will be for us to bring more information to the project before we go ahead. Participation means to bring people to reflect on what credit system is, what are the challenges, and I see that many contributions here was to advise us to go through what exists in Africa, and we have data on what is going on for us to get the better program at the end, and we can serve this issue of quality assurance and the mobility, mutual recognition, and comparability. Thank you.
So you have the final say.
Be brief. Just why this exercise? Thank you, Mr. Chair, specifically for laying out what this task is all about, what we are also envisaging in the future. So this exercise actually reaffirms the importance of this initiative in all the activities we have been undertaking in quality assurance, in mobility, and so forth. So that is really an important enterprise. The second one, I think that's Jeff Mukora, who stated, in terms of capitalizing on the resources and the knowledge that we have so far developed, and we most certainly would be using that experience. I know it is for the lack of time that Pablo didn't probably feature, but I wish we had the time to feature it, but simply to say that we have already done some work, solid work that exists. That work involved the consultation of students, faculty, in this case academic, and also other stakeholders. So we have that background information and knowledge, so we most certainly will capitalize on that. And the other point is we need to make sure that we bring in as many key players as possible. And as the last speaker indicated, not the last speaker, the gentleman, Dr. Awal, indicated, we should be able to bring in the key stakeholders. In this case, the key stakeholders are not just students, and not just the academics, but the vice chancellors and the deputy vice chancellors of research and academic. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I call on Nico.
Thank you, Lusula. Thank you, Pablo. This has been a great, I think, a great discussion. Very important for the past, the present, and potentially the future. And I just very humbly want to underline that whatever we are discussing, whatever we are doing now and we will do in the future, is going to be based to serve the interests of the African Union Commission and the European Union, because our colleague from the European Union is here. So we own the service to these two institutions, and all these discussions will enrich probably the content that we will be delivering upon the request of the European Union and the African Union Commission. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Juro.
Thank you very much. So I share my slide with you. I share your with you. Then if we need to meet tomorrow, when are you traveling back?
Thank you.
Tomorrow? In the night. Okay.
Thank you so much, Chair, and Pablo, for a wonderful presentation and the good work you are doing. So, nous allons maintenant passer à la session de clôture. Donc, j'aimerais inviter sur le podium le représentant de Bril, le représentant du DIED et la représentante de l'Union européenne. Vous êtes les bienvenus sur le podium. Also the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities. Yes, please. Yes. Sorry, you are part of it. I didn't call you because you're already on the podium. Mine. No, she's not. She's. As I said, we've just come to the last session of our conference. Now I'd like to request the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities to give his closing remarks.
To appreciate every one of us for taking the time to visit us in Africa and to see how we are in Accra, Ghana. I want to thank everybody who has come to this particular consultation and to let you know that your views matter. And then to also let you know that beyond this meeting, we shall be looking forward to working together with every one of you, because we need each other to be able to make the difference. I want to thank you for coming and to reassure you of the commitment of the Association of African Universities. I keep on telling some people that we have a new AAU. The AAU we have today is different from the AAU of yesterday. We are highly committed to the advancement of African universities, and we are going to be very proactive in attending to issues connected with the university development of universities in Africa. Since this is my last opportunity to speak, I will not conclude without appreciating all the technical group and the local organizing committee who have spent their time in attending to us, including the drivers and those young people who ushered us into this place. We want to appreciate every one of you. Those of us in the HAQAA2 TV, we appreciate the great work you are doing. And to remind all of us that we have a television station dedicated to higher education in Africa. We call it HAQAA2 TV. It's on satellite and we run 24 hours, 7 days in the week. And you can, if you have news about your institution, you can connect to us and can depend on us to broadcast what you do. I think it's high time that our people and our government know that they need higher education for our development. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities, for your commitment to the advancement of higher education in Africa. Now it's my pleasure to invite the representative of the Global, Aubrey, to make her statement.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Juru. I will also base my remarks mostly on appreciation and thanks. I will try not to be too repetitive. There are many, many people to thank, many organizations to thank. I would like to point out in particular the role of our strategic partners in the delivery of the HAQAA2. This was, I think, essential to its success. If we could have a final HAQAA2 conference in every one of your regions and countries, we would do so. It would be appropriate. Special recognition to IUCEA in East Africa, to Surua in SADC, to our friends at CAMES, to Rafanak and our colleagues at Anaksoup in Senegal, to NACWE in Egypt. Johan Senaid was with us yesterday. To all of our colleagues and friends on the advisory board, our friends at UNESCO, to the IUF, to the All African Students Union. We are infinitely grateful because this initiative is not about any one particular set of institutions that takes these objectives forward. It's about all of the institutions that work collectively to take this initiative forward. And we've tried as best as we could as an implementing consortium to show an inclusiveness, not for aesthetics purposes, but out of sheer necessity. And we hope to continue in that spirit of collaboration in the future. That is the intention. I would, of course, like to recognize our partners, the DAD, INQUA, the AAU for its tremendous leadership and also its wonderful hosting capacity. We've had an excellent few days here, and the AAU staff that has come together behind this initiative has been really remarkable. I would like to recognize from my own team, in particular, the colleagues here, but also the colleagues back at home in Barcelona and in our various offices in different parts of the world. A special recognition to Apio Okwiri, who many of you know. She commented the other night that she needs to change her WhatsApp number because you've been flooding her WhatsApp at all hours of the night. So special applause to Apio. For her kindness and tenacity and patience. And I would also like to recognize, of course, our colleagues and partners in the EU, and for Claire for being with us today. It has been her first HAQAA event in person, and we feel privileged that she's joined us. We hope that she now goes back to Brussels with lots of ideas and enthusiasm and motivation for the next phase as we go forward. And of course, to our colleagues at the African Union Commission, a pleasure that Kasli has been with us. Of course, as my colleague Nico said earlier, we are working towards the objectives of the African Union. We are working with the African Union and with the European Commission. And we are, of course, working for the European Commission and appreciate tremendously the financing that has been offered. And finally, I would just like to thank everybody else in the room, our task force, our technical working group, all of the colleagues that have come from the different dissemination projects who have put so much effort in. You've really created a community. And I think, this initiative would not be what it would be without you. We count on you for the future. And we look forward to continuing to work with you. And I echo this notion of the HAQAA ambassadors, the ASGQA the ambassadors, the ACTS ambassadors, whatever we want to call them, and we will find a good name. You're all becoming ambassadors of these continental higher education harmonization objectives, and we're delighted to be able to contribute to shaping that. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, the representative of Brig Global, for appreciating and also recognizing the role of the strategic partners played in the implementation of the HAQAA2, but also the support you received from other members of the consortium and also from the African Union Commission and the European Union Commission. Now it's my pleasure to invite the representative of DAD to give his closing remarks.
Again, without trying to repeat what has already been said, I'd like to appreciate the partnership that has been forged over the last years, both in HAQAA1 and HAQAA2. I think we're a very good team by now. There's a lot of trust and a lot of also personal friendship involved, I think, in implementing this initiative. Again, as Elizabeth has said, I can only repeat that one, and Olusola as well. The results that have been reached in this initiative are yours. They are owned by you. They are your results. It's your system. It's your harmonization that you need to shape for the African continent. And we are very happy that we've been able to contribute to that. Now, one last group I'd like to thank that has not been mentioned so far is the fantastic translators that have been enabling us throughout the days to communicate in all the languages. We hope to add in a fourth language in the next phase when it kicks off, Arabic, reminding us of what Johansson said. And with these very short deliberations, I'd like to pass back to Juru. Thank you.
Thank you, the representative of DAD. And also thank you for reminding us that next time we should think about getting translation in Arabic. So now it's my pleasure to invite the representative of the European Union to make final remarks.
Je vais m'exprimer en français pour changer un peu. Donc, tout d'abord, je voulais vous dire combien les travaux qui ont été présentés aujourd'hui aujourd'hui et les jours précédents sont impressionnants. Sur le fond, nombreuses formations, visites d'évaluation, des produits aussi concrets comme les MOOC, les cours en ligne, les guides des utilisateurs sur les lignes directrices. Enfin, beaucoup de travaux, de résultats qui ont été produits malgré les circonstances liées au Covid, donc c'est vraiment très apprécié. Mais encore plus que sur le fond, j'ai été impressionnée par la méthode. C'est quand même impressionnant de voir des gens capables des praticiens qui viennent de pays si différents, avec des systèmes d'enseignement supérieur si différents, collaborer, présenter des résultats ensemble agréés. Et j'étais par exemple, à titre d'exemple, de voir les représentants du CAMES, des CAN, RAFANAC et la CNAC avoir un langage commun et des conclusions communes. Ça peut vous paraître évident puisque vous travaillez déjà depuis 3 ans au moins sur ce sujet, mais c'est quand même exceptionnel. Je voulais aussi souligner l'impact de HAQAA2 sur les systèmes d'enseignement supérieur. À titre d'exemple, la création d'une agence régionale des pays lusophones, par exemple, qui semble découler directement de ce projet HAQAA. Plein d'autres aussi, je pense, exemples d'impact dans vos pays et dans vos régions. J'ai aussi noté les domaines à améliorer. Je vois bien qu'il y a un consensus sur les activités réalisées, mais j'ai noté quelques aspects auxquels il nous faut penser pour le futur. Une implication plus grande des étudiants, aussi bien dans les universités que dans les agences de qualité. Le fait que les standards et lignes directrices sont maintenant connus, mais elles restent à être digérées, j'allais dire, et mises en œuvre. Aussi, la présentation de Fred Swaniger m'a un peu secouée et je me suis dit, oui, c'est vrai, quand même, l'impact des technologies dans les méthodes qu'on a pour enseigner, mais aussi pour les étudiants pour apprendre, vont nous obliger quand même à adapter nos systèmes d'assurance qualité à cette nouvelle évolution qui va très vite. Et donc, voilà, c'est un appel à réfléchir pour le futur. J'ai bien noté aussi les demandes répétées pour renforcer la formation du personnel dans les agences d'assurance qualité. Aussi, d'augmenter le nombre de bénéficiaires directs de ces formations en général, aussi bien dans les universités que dans les agences. Donc, d'étendre l'impact de cette initiative. Et je pensais, ça n'a pas été mentionné, mais en vous écoutant, je me dis aussi qu'il faudrait faire un effort pour différencier les activités en fonction de la maturité des agences. Tout le monde ne parle pas du même niveau, donc même si c'est bien de se rencontrer et d'échanger, peut-être pour les formations, il faudrait différencier en fonction des besoins et de la maturité des agences. J'ai noté aussi, donc là, je termine pour les améliorations, et je me disais aussi que voilà, je voulais faire un petit bilan de ce qui reste à produire avant la clôture de ce projet. Donc, on attendra avec impatience le rapport de synthèse des visites d'évaluation et d'accompagnement, qui vont être sans doute très riches d'enseignements selon les présentations qui nous ont été faites. Aussi, la finalisation de la feuille de route pour le système de transfert de crédit en Afrique. La finalisation du document aussi sur l'agence continentale d'assurance qualité, pour qu'ensuite on puisse voir comment collaborer avec l'Union africaine pour faire en sorte que ça devienne une réalité. Et aussi la feuille de route pour la collecte des données et le briefing politique qui a été annoncé. Ça, c'est évidemment très intéressant pour nous. Et voilà, donc tous ces documents, on attend qu'ils soient rapidement terminés avant la clôture de ce projet. Avant de finir, je voulais aussi revenir sur l'idée que j'avais avancée dans mon intervention au début de la conférence, sur le fait qu'on doit vraiment veiller, chacun d'entre nous en rentrant chez nous, à disséminer les résultats de cette initiative. C'est 3 ans de travail, c'est énormément de travail, des beaux résultats. Ça vaut vraiment la peine de communiquer le maximum dans chacune de nos institutions, universités, assurance qualité, même les ministères et moi-même au niveau de la Commission européenne, faire en sorte que mes collègues soient au courant. Je crois que c'est Elisabeth qui avait dit « we are insulate ». Alors, j'arrive pas à traduire ça en français. Enfin bref, on doit veiller à ne pas être sur une île entre nous, fermée. Quand on arrive de l'extérieur, ce qui m'est arrivé il y a 1 an à peu près sur ce sujet, ça paraît un peu compliqué, le vocabulaire est un peu technique. Il faut qu'on trouve des mots simples pour convaincre nos auditeurs et faire en sorte que ça ressemble pas à une secte de l'assurance qualité. Voilà. Donc, éviter le jargon, communiquer et voilà. Et moi, je crois beaucoup à l'effet boule de neige. Alors peut-être qu'en Afrique, on parle pas de boule de neige, je sais pas comment on pourrait dire, vent de sable ou je sais pas, mais de faire que, en fait, c'est par l'image qu'on donne de l'assurance qualité, les produits qu'on fait, nos activités, qu'on peut convaincre et de l'utilité et de la nécessité de renforcer la qualité des enseignements au bénéfice des étudiants. Voilà, donc dernier point. Je rappelle, comme je l'avais dit au début, qu'il y a un engagement au plus haut niveau politique qui a été pris entre les chefs d'État européens et africains sur plusieurs priorités, dont l'enseignement, l'éducation en général et l'enseignement supérieur en particulier, lors d'un sommet en février dernier. Le soutien à la mobilité, à la coopération universitaire est mentionné noir sur blanc. Il y a avec cela aussi un engagement financier de l'Union européenne. Alors là aussi, j'arrive pas à traduire, Global Gateway Investment Package, donc un paquet financier. Et dans ce paquet, il y a un budget prévu pour la troisième phase de HAQAA. Comme je l'ai expliqué aussi, on est dans un processus d'appel ouvert, donc il faut attendre le résultat. Mais on va faire en sorte que cette phase transitoire soit la plus brève possible. Parce que je trouve qu'il faut vraiment qu'on utilise toute l'énergie que j'ai vue ces derniers jours pour fédérer l'engagement des acteurs, des universités, des organisations nationales d'assurance qualité, des organisations régionales et continentales. En tout cas, pour moi, ça a été un crash training. J'ai appris beaucoup de choses. Ça a été très utile de vous entendre et j'ai mieux compris la complexité, mais aussi les dynamiques des différentes dimensions de cette initiative. Alors, je ne vais pas répéter à nouveau tous les personnes que je voulais remercier, bien sûr, l'équipe Oréal Global, les AD, ENQUA, l'Association des universités africaines, et bon, tous les gens qu'on n'a pas beaucoup vus, mais qui ont été très actifs derrière les portes et dans les cabines d'interprétation. Et voilà, je ne me suis pas sentie dans une conférence, mais vraiment accueillie par l'association des universités africaines. Donc vraiment, c'était des très bons hôtes. Et je me dis que là, vous avez beaucoup de chance. Vous êtes entourés de femmes magnifiques et très efficaces. Une belle équipe. Donc, bon vent à votre association.
Merci beaucoup, la représentante de l'Union européenne, pour votre résumé. Donc, vous avez énuméré un bon nombre de sujets à améliorer, mais aussi à renforcer, et les projets à finaliser, notamment les STS et l'Agence continentale de l'assurance qualité, la feuille de route pour la collecte de données, etc. Merci aussi de nous rappeler aussi à disséminer au maximum les résultats de ce projet HAQAA2. Donc, dès qu'on rentre à la maison, on a un devoir. On doit s'assurer on dissémine au maximum les résultats de ce projet HAQAA2. Donc, j'aimerais aussi inviter le représentant de l'Union africaine à venir donner aussi ses remarques. The representative of the African Union. Representative of African Union. You're most welcome. Yes, sir. I didn't forget you.
I'm going to read. Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. And thank you for putting me on the spot. I did not know I had to say something, but I will begin by thanking the participants, Obrel and AAU, DAD, AAD for putting this together. And I will also thank the advisory board members for the work they are doing. I will also thank all the participants for your time to seriously deliberate on the achievement made so far in the HAQAA2 initiative. And like Professor Okebukola said. He said, when you talk about something and is in the pipeline, you need to break the pipe to see what is in the pipeline. And I believe that the pipe has been broken, and we have seen what we have in the HAQAA2 initiative. And I will say that as we have seen it, what we have there, I believe the actions to achieve those objectives, the actions have just begun. And we know that the importance of higher education in the continent. And I will just, I've listened to profs in the house, and I've seen that the importance of higher education in achieving the African that we want. And I want to thank you all for your time. I want to thank you all for the work you are doing on behalf of my department. And I hope that we'll see you again to deliberate more on how these objectives can be achieved. Thank you very much.
Before we finally end, we all appreciate our great coordinator, Mrs. Juru, for taking us.
Thank you, Secretary General of the Association of African Universities. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our conference. Thank you all for your active participation. I would like to end with an inspirational quote from Henry Ford. He said, "Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success." So if everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself. So all of us, we are good ambassadors of HAQAA2. So let's continue to be good ambassadors of HAQAA2. And as Professor Okebukola said, the ship has left the harbor. So keep moving and keep disseminating the results of the HAQAA2 initiative. So thank you so much, and wish you all safe travel back home. Bon voyage. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.